90 seconds. That's all it would take for a single decision to redraw the balance of power in the Middle East. And right now, that decision is already unfolding. The country Iran depended on for decades is quietly shutting the door, and the consequences could be devastating. If you want clear, daily breakdowns of what's really happening behind the headlines, hit like and stay with me, because the next part changes everything. For years, while sanctions tightened around Iran from every direction, one pathway never fully closed. When global banking systems locked Iran out, when oil revenues were squeezed, and when international pressure peaked, a single route still allowed money, influence, and power to flow. That route ran through the UAE, and through it, billions moved, legally, quietly, and sometimes invisibly. But here's what most people missed. That system wasn't just economic, it was strategic, and now it's being dismantled. Because something changed, not gradually, suddenly. After months of rising tension, Iran escalated in a way that stunned even regional insiders. Missiles, drones, direct strikes, not just symbolic moves, but real damage. Airports, infrastructure, civilian areas. And in that moment, the one country that had tolerated Iran's financial lifeline decided it had seen enough. Before we go deeper, make sure you're subscribed, because what comes next is not being explained this clearly anywhere else. What happened next wasn't just political, it was historic. The UAE announced it would walk away from OPEC, an organization it had been part of for decades. That alone would be massive. But the message behind it was even bigger. This wasn't just about oil, it was about distancing from Iran completely. And for the first time in years, the balance inside OPEC itself began to shift. Now, on the surface, leaving OPEC sounds like a straightforward move: more independence, more control over oil production. But the reality is more complex. The UAE was already producing below its assigned quota, so why leave now? That's the real question. And the answer isn't just about barrels of oil, it's about control over the future. Because production isn't the only problem. Geography is. The Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical oil routes in the world, has become a pressure point. Restrictions there have limited how much oil can actually reach global markets. So even if the UAE produces more, moving that oil remains a challenge. But here's where it gets interesting. They've been quietly building alternatives, pipelines that bypass the choke points, routes that reduce dependency, systems designed for exactly this kind of scenario. And that tells you something important. This wasn't a reaction, it was preparation. Meanwhile, the financial side of the story is moving even faster. The same networks that once allowed Iranian money to flow are now being targeted, not loosely, precisely. Dozens of entities linked to Iran's financial operations have been identified. Accounts frozen, assets blocked, entire channels cut off almost overnight. And if you're wondering how significant that is, consider this. Those networks were the backbone of how Iran survived sanctions in the first place. Now imagine losing them. Iran isn't just facing pressure, it's facing isolation at a level it hasn't seen in years. Oil exports are under strain, storage is reaching limits, revenue streams are shrinking, and inside the country, the economic pressure is becoming harder to contain. Reports suggest growing instability, tightening controls, and increasing concern within leadership circles. But here's the part most people aren't connecting yet. This isn't just about one country acting alone. The broader region is watching and responding. Several Gulf nations have begun pushing back against Iran's attempts to control key shipping routes. Statements have been made, positions have hardened. And while not every country is acting as openly as the UAE, the direction is becoming clear. This is no longer quiet tension, it's coordinated resistance. And yet, despite all of this, there's still a major unknown. How far does this go? Because while economic pressure can weaken a system, it can also force decisions, negotiations, escalations, or something in between. There are already signs that discussions are happening behind closed doors, proposals, counterproposals, attempts to reshape what comes next without appearing to concede. Because perception matters just as much as reality. If one side appears to win too clearly, it creates new risks, internally, politically, strategically. That's why any potential deal won't just be about terms, it will be about how those terms are presented. And history shows that how a deal looks can be just as important as what it contains. But while those discussions continue, the immediate situation keeps evolving. Financial pressure is increasing, regional alliances are shifting, and the margin for error is shrinking. Iran's leadership now faces a narrowing set of options, each with consequences that extend far beyond its borders. And that brings us back to where we started. One door. The last open connection that allowed Iran to operate within the global system. That door is now closing. Not slowly, not partially, decisively. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of most people following this story. So drop a like, share your thoughts below, because this situation is changing daily, and the next development could come faster than anyone expects. Stay close to this story, because the shifts happening right now are not temporary, they're structural. We break this down every single day, piece by piece, so you're never behind. If you want that edge, consider subscribing. It genuinely helps you stay informed without the noise.